At 11:16 p.m. on August 20th, 1989, Beverly Hills dispatchers received a frantic 911 call. What they heard next wasn't a burglary, it was the shattering of familial trust. A young voice, trembling, "It's my dad. Mom, they're bleeding. They've both been shot. Please hurry." Within minutes, officers arrived at a grand mansion on the manicured Elm Drive. Inside, blood-coated marble floors. José Menendez lay motionless. Kitty Menendez, frail and lifeless, had been shot multiple times. And standing quietly in the chaos were their two sons, Erik and Lyle. This was no random break-in. It was a meticulously planned execution carried out by the very people who claimed to love them most. From that night forward, Erik and Lyle Menendez would be marked as the wealthy brothers who killed their parents. Tonight, we pull back the velvet curtain on one of America's most disturbing true crime mysteries, a story of wealth, privilege, and betrayal at its darkest. José Menendez emigrated from Cuba, climbed the ranks from dishwasher to entertainment executive at RCA Records and a private equity firm. Kitty Menendez, former beauty queen and socialite, supported him with grace and charm. Together they forged a facade of glamour and success. In the 1970s and 80s, the family moved to Beverly Hills. Their sons, Lyle, born 1968, and Erik, born 1970, grew up with tennis lessons, private schools, and lavish vacations, symbols of their father's prosperity. But beneath the surface, tensions simmered. José ruled with an iron fist, demanding obedience, instilling fear. Kitty tried to soften his edges, but often failed. Whispered rumors of harsh discipline, emotional cruelty, and even sexual abuse circulated within a small circle. By the summer of 1989, tensions inside the Menendez home had reached a boiling point. José's strict control over the family clashed with his son's growing defiance. Lyle had been suspended from Princeton, while Erik was living at home, training for tennis and preparing for college. Behind the gates of their Beverly Hills mansion, the family's once glamorous image was unraveling, and it was about to explode. By August 20th, 1989, the family dynamic had reached a breaking point. What began as a simple dinner would become a confrontation. Words escalated into shouting. The tension was thick, unrelenting, and just hours later, that same house would be drenched in blood. That Sunday evening, neighbors noticed nothing unusual. José arrived home around 7:45 p.m., returning to routine chores. Lyle came back from a campus study group soon after. Erik remained in the home, quiet and distant. Inside, the tension exploded. A family dinner turned into a confrontation. Erik, backed by Lyle, confronted their father. The confrontation escalated, voices rose. Then a silence fell. Moments later, 2 Ithaca 12-gauge shotguns, taken from above the fireplace, were fired. Kitty, already frail, was shot multiple times at close range even after collapse. José was shot in the head. The entire attack lasted mere minutes. After the gunfire ceased, Erik and Lyle walked outside calmly. No forced entry, no sign of struggle. Spent shells, blood, and financial anxiety filled the scene. Some $14,000 in newly deposited cash had disappeared. Police found flashbang grenades in Erik's room, tactical tools, suggesting premeditation. By the time officers arrived, the brothers were outside, composed as though nothing had happened. The tranquility masked atrocity. Investigators swarmed the mansion. Forensic teams photographed bodies and crime scene, bagged evidence, and tested surfaces for gunshot residue, finding high concentrations. The weapons belonged to the parents. No external suspect, no forced entry, no robbery aside from stolen cash. Detectives questioned Erik and Lyle, looking for leads. But behavioral red flags emerged. Lavish spending, flashbang grenades, deleted will, and an attempt to simulate a mob killing. The case took a dramatic turn when Erik disclosed to his psychologist, Dr. Jerome Iziel, that he'd snapped. He described waking in fear after years of abuse. The psychologist's mistress secretly recorded it and turned it over to police. Armed with forensic evidence and a recorded confession, detectives arrested the brothers. Prosecutors charged them with murder. Meanwhile, the defense filed motions, citing abuse as justification. Tyranny could lead to terror, it was their claim. The trial captured national attention. Prosecutors emphasized wealth and greed. Two sons executing their parents for inheritance. The simplified narrative. Blood for money. Defense attorneys depicted decades of terror. Emotional abuse, physical violence, sexual assault, especially allegations against José. Erik described constant fear. Lyle claimed he caught José in the act just days before the shooting. Evidence of abuse was disputed. Some therapists supported the brothers. Others dismissed it as unverified and motivated. No physical proof of sexual assault existed. The conflict boiled down to words versus wounds. The first trial in 1993 ended in deadlocked juries. With no conclusion, a retrial began in October 1995. Sexual abuse evidence was partially excluded. The defense's portrait of suffering was blurred. On March 20th, 1996, the verdicts came in. Guilty on first-degree murder and conspiracy. In July 1996, both received life sentences without the possibility of parole. Incarcerated, Erik and Lyle were separated, assigned to different prisons. They lived apart for more than 2 decades. In 2013, Erik transferred to Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego. In February 2018, Lyle followed. By April of that year, official policy changes allowed them to reunite. They saw each other again after 22 years of separation and reportedly burst into tears. Inside prison, they became unlikely mentors. Erik taught meditation and spiritual classes. Lyle helped other inmates and launched a garden initiative. Together, they worked on a mural project, fostering beauty behind bars. In 2023, new allegations emerged. Former Menudo pop star Roy Rossello claimed José abused him, and an Erik-authored letter recounting childhood trauma surfaced. These additions triggered renewed legal scrutiny. In October 2024, Los Angeles DA George Gascon petitioned for resentencing, citing potential rehabilitation and youthful offender law. The courtroom reconsidered, but newly elected DA Nathan Hochman contested, calling the defense fabricated lies. On May 13, 2025, Judge Michael Jezik resentenced Erik and Lyle to 50 years to life, making them immediately eligible for parole under California law. A parole hearing is scheduled for June 13, 2025. Supporters see it as redemption. Skeptics call for accountability. Today, the brothers remain incarcerated at R.J. Donovan, housed in the same unit under 24-hour lockdown. This case forces uncomfortable questions. Family wealth, power, and violence coexisted behind closed doors. Discipline may creep into abuse. Fear festers in silence, and sometimes escape takes violent forms. Erik and Lyle claimed lifelong fear of their father. They said the murders were acts of desperation. Prosecutors called them calculated killers motivated by greed. But the legacy of the case extends beyond the verdict. It sparked national debate on abuse, self-defense, mental health, and intricate dynamics of privilege. The question remains, were they murderers or survivors, mad or justified? As they now stand one step from possible parole, we must consider, can traumatic history mitigate atrocity? Can prison rehabilitation outweigh premeditated violence? Can reconciliation replace retribution? The Menendez case shattered illusions of safety behind gated walls. It reminds us that silence can kill, that whispers of pain deserve attention, and that justice is never simple. What do you believe guilty killers or traumatized sons? Their story continues to haunt waiting for closure. If this case gripped you, don't miss what's coming next. In our next episode, we'll unravel another chilling case, one that will leave you questioning how something so horrific could happen. Subscribe now so you never miss a story that haunts, shocks, and lingers long after the screen fades to black. Until then, stay curious, stay safe, and stay aware.